Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel, and we are going to continue on with our book club, reading through Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings, and we are up to chapter 8, entitled Nearer the Flame. We return to Shallan and continue on with her story from chapter 7, where she is absolutely crushed. The chapter ended, chapter 7, Yasna returned to her reading alcove, not very pleased. She comes in, and Shallan sort of quickly gathers herself and is hoping that she can have one final chance to present her the letter that she's essentially drawn for her. But Shallan is completely dismissed and disparaged by Yasna. She's not impressed that she's still hanging around. And so Shallan rushes away, feeling like a complete fool as she hurried back, holding back tears of embarrassment. So she goes not far though. She kind of just escapes the room and just sort of shrinks down onto the stone wall, sitting on the ground. Well, a few moments pass, and a young servant hurries after her, calling her back because Yasna wanted to see her again. Shallan sort of picks herself up, enters slowly back into the reading alcove, and Yasna shockingly apologizes to her. She says that her tone was harsh, she should not have been so short with her, and Shallan thought that Yasna had read her letter and was feeling a little bit more inclined to help. Turns out Yasna hadn't even seen the letter, so she lets her know, well, it's under that huge stack of books that you slammed down when you came in here. So Yasna reads the letter and finds herself impressed by Shallan's honesty, and even with her lack of formal education, she's impressed at her logic and her rhetoric, in which she demonstrated throughout the letter, arguing very convincingly. Well, Yasna decided then and there that she would award Shallan a second interview in which she could apply for her wardship. Well, Shallan, though, knowing that she's not there just for education, she's there to steal that soulcaster, is still just as crestfallen, because even if she's able to get back to a second interview, that's going to take long enough that her family is still going to be lost. So though it's good news for her real purposes, that's not what she needed. She thanked her, and Shallan wandered out onto the enclave, looking at the city. It's nearing evening now. It's been a long day. And her mind drifted back to her father, the situation of their home. And I wanted to read for you something on page 131, where, again, I've read this already. I'm sort of finding things afresh now that I'm reading back through them. But just reading it here and maybe not giving any commentary, I just wanted to focus our attention on it. On page 131, we read, "And her part in it," the situation with her family and her father, "and her part in it, and the secret she now carried, hidden 10 heartbeats away." So we will find out what that means. What secret is she carrying that is hidden 10 heartbeats away? Well, Yalb, the sailor who has helped her navigate through Cabranth already, finds her and offers to accompany her back to the Wind's Pleasure. And they get to discussing, and he can tell that she's pretty upset. Well, he cheers her up and actually asks her to try again. He says, "I think you should give it one more go." He's a gambler and says the third hand is always the best. She is not very impressed by that. However, he cites some local mystical tradition, something he called the passions, and says the passions are going to help you this time. I know it, because the passions come through when an individual is so desperate, so passionate, that they are essentially ready to earn their help. So the passions, again, this sort of cultural mystic idea that if you want something hard enough, the passions will come through. Well, Shallan's not very impressed, but she does get to be thinking here. I wonder what it would look like. Clearly, the time it's going to take to learn everything that Jasnah wants me to learn is going to be way too long. But is there something that I can do to try again? Because if she gets mad and casts her away, well, then she's really no better off. So Shallan grew determined and asked Yalb if there were any nearby bookshops. He rushed off and found a couple, brings her there, comes back and gets her, brings her there, and she walks into one. Now, something interesting about Shallan is that because she was raised as a rich, light-eyed girl, she actually has never done most things for herself. Even though her family is obviously in much financial hardship, when she was growing up, she had servants, she had people that did the shopping, did the buying. So she's actually never been in a shop herself and doesn't really know what to do. So she finds her way to the counter, and she speaks with a husband and wife who are the shop owners. And you can tell that the husband, he pretty much sees gullible written all over Shallan's face. So they start talking, and the gullibility turns maybe even more to annoyance because Shallan is so upset, right? She has been discredited, she's been embarrassed, she's been condescended toward by Jasnah like all day. And she actually is going to take out her frustration on this kind of poor, uneducated bookstore owner, and their sort of quippy back and forth gets pretty nasty, and Shallan is just insulting his intelligence. She's using her sarcasm, her wit, sort of making herself feel better, which is not helping her case when it comes to this shop owner trying to take advantage of her. Well, his wife brings back the books that Shallan asked about. It totals 7 books in all, and he tells her that they were going to be cutting her a really good deal, just 10 emerald bromes for the entire order. She is shocked because she has been keeping track somewhat of her money and knows that that is more than the entire trip here. She's thinking, how on earth are books this expensive? And is about to fish into her purse and give him the money when who but Yalb comes rushing in, pretending to be a servant of the shop owner's rival store owner, right? And he pretty much spins this tale that she's stormed out of their store because they offered her a ridiculously low price and she wasn't having it. And she picks up on the fact that Yalb is saving her bacon, right? He is helping her. And so she kind of plays along with it, and they're able to essentially bargain him down to 2 emerald bromes and 3 sapphire bromes. A much better deal, clearly, from 10 emerald bromes. And so she thanks him, pays for the stuff, goes out, thanks Yalb, and she thanks him by giving him the drawing that she made of him back when she was waiting for Jasnah. And he is beaming. He is incredibly thankful. Well, together they walk back to the conclave, back to the library where Jasnah's at, and Shallan is going to rent a reading alcove, and she has decided, I am going to be where I can see Jasnah. And whenever she is ready to leave Kharbranth, for whatever reason she's here, I'm going to approach her and have my interview. So she's got a lot of work cut out for her, and she digs into her books, right? Well, as she's really kind of becoming consumed by this knowledge, this amount of information, she is utterly surprised when who comes just quickly and unannounced into her alcove is Jasnah herself. We find that Jasnah had bribed some of the local servants that if Shallan showed back up, they were to let her know. And so she glances over the room, sees all the books, is impressed by the choices that Shallan has chosen from the bookstore, and actually sits down and quite rudely starts going through Shallan's things. Shallan doesn't really have much to say or to hide, so she just lets it happen. And Jasnah pulls out her book of drawings, and she starts flipping through and is impressed because with everything that they've discussed already, she knows that though she may be in this for the social the social motivation, the social forward movement for herself. At the same time, she can't knock the fact that she is doing this sort of higher learning on her own. And so she lets her know that she's deduced why Shallan is here. And she says, I think because I did some digging into your family, and I know that you and your father are on hard times, your family is. And so I think you're here to get connected to make a financial marriage happen, where your family can benefit from whomever wealthy young knight, young lord that you're going to marry. And I think that's why you're here. Shallan is relieved because she gets concerned, thinking she really found out the real reason why she was there. Shallan again commends her for pursuing the arts in her spare time and says that this is a sign, though, that even if that's why you're here, you're still genuinely a student and you still want to learn, and she respects that. Much to her surprise, she informs Shallan that she has several rooms at her disposal given her by the king, and says, I want you to leave here and I want you to go to one of those rooms and I want you to rest because you seem exhausted. And then together, we're going to continue your education, and you're going to help me and I'm going to help you. And Shallan is absolutely overjoyed. She says, are you accepting me as your ward? And Jasnah doesn't want to give in quite that easy. She says, we'll talk about that later. You rest, and then we have work to do. Let me read for you the last couple sentences here. Then she hurriedly gathered up her books and went looking for a servant to send the wind's pleasure word to send her her trunk. It had been a very, very long day, but she'd won. The first step had been completed. Now her real task began. And again, her real task here is to manipulate Jasnah in order to get close to her, to steal her soulcaster. So my goodness gracious, from what we've learned about Jasnah, she is not one to be taken as a fool. So Shallan has her work cut out for her, but we'll see as the journey continues. Thanks so much for tuning in. Chapter 8 of Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings, Near the Flame. We'll continue on in the next video. And until then, thanks for watching.